Welcome to Bodhi Academy. My name is Amisha Kulaso, and today we are going to continue with the part 2 of the chapter Coal and Petroleum of class 8. So firstly, to begin with, in the part 1 of this video, we saw what are the natural resources. So the resources that are obtained from the nature itself were termed as natural resources. Further, we saw that the natural resources were divided into inexhaustible and exhaustible natural resources. Now, inexhaustible natural resources, we said, were unlimited in nature and they won't get exhausted by any human activities. Some example of inexhaustible natural resources we took were sunlight, air. Such resources won't get exhausted. Then coming to exhaustible natural resources, we said that they are limited in nature and they are likely to be exhausted due to human activities. So in this chapter, we are going to focus on this exhaustible natural resources. Now, exhaustible natural resources like coal, petroleum and natural gas, these were formed from the dead remains of living organisms known as fossils. So they were known as fossil fuels. Further, we also saw how the formation of coal occurred, what is coal, and how the formation of coal initially occurred. So what happened was, to summarize, that over the years the wetlands which were there due to natural disasters like flooding, soil erosion, landslides, due to these reasons the soil came down onto these forests which were there in the wetlands, and they submerged this forest. Over the years, due to the increasing amount of soil being deposited on this forest, there was a rise in temperature and pressure that led to the conversion of this dead vegetation to something known as coal. So carbonization was known to be the slow conversion of dead vegetation into coal, and it was known to be carbonization because the major constituent of coal is said to be carbon. So it was termed as carbonization. Further, we saw some other products of coal like coke, coal tar and coal gas, and what are their uses and how were they prepared. So today, moving ahead in this part 2 of this video, will focus on what is petroleum. So you know that petrol is used as a fuel in light automobiles such as motorcycles, scooters and cars. Heavy motor vehicles like trucks and tractors run on diesel. Petrol and diesel are obtained from a natural resource called petroleum. So petrol and diesel are obtained from a natural resource called petroleum. So petroleum gives byproducts which are petrol and diesel, which we use in our everyday life in our vehicles, like we use them in our motorcycles, our bikes, our trucks, cars. We use these two major constituents, petrol and diesel. The word petroleum is derived from petra, rock, and oleum, that is oil, as it is mined from between the rocks under earth, as shown in figure 3.4. So now petroleum was derived from two words, that is petra, which meant a rock, and oleum, which meant oil. And petroleum is basically mined between the rocks which are under the earth's crust. So do you know how petroleum is formed? So now let's see how petroleum was formed. Petroleum was formed from the organisms living in the sea. As these organisms died, their bodies settled at the bottom of the sea and got converted with layers of sand and clay. Over millions of years, absence of air, high temperature and pressure transformed the dead organisms into petroleum and natural gas. So now when we were talking about coal, what we said that coal was formed due to conversion of dead vegetation. So here what we are looking at is the living organisms under the sea. So when they are saying is that when these living organisms die, their bodies, they get settled at the base of the sea, and then over the years they get covered by the layers of sand and clay. Now over millions of years, due to the absence of air or oxygen and high pressure and temperature, these dead organisms get transformed into petroleum and natural gas. So here this figure depicts petroleum and natural gas deposit. So we can see there's water, oil, gas, there's this reservoir rock which is there, and there are impervious rocks. So now it shows the deposits of petroleum and natural gas. You see that the layer containing petroleum, oil and gas is above that of water. Why is it so? Why is it so? Is that because we know that you see that the layer containing petroleum, oil and gas is above that of water. We know that the density of oil and gas is much lighter than that of water. Therefore, it is always found above the layer of water. Now, refining of petroleum. So now when I say refining of petroleum, what do we understand here? So basically petroleum is a mixture of many things. Okay, so it consists of gas, as I said, it has petrol, it has diesel, then it has kerosene, lubricating oil. All these are constituents of petroleum. So when I say refining of petroleum, what we basically do is we separate out these components from this mixture of petroleum. We get what we want and we discard what we don't want. So petroleum is a dark oily liquid. It has an unpleasant odor. It is a mixture of various constituents such as petroleum, gas, petrol, diesel, lubricating oil, paraffin, wax, etc. So now you see that petroleum is a mixture of all of these things. Okay, so now from these, whatever things we need, whatever constituents we need is what we refine them into. So the process of separating the various constituents or fractions of petroleum is known as refining, and it is carried out in a petroleum refinery. So the process of separating the various constituents / fractions of petroleum is known as refining. It is carried out in a petroleum refinery. So now what do they do over here is that first we have the crude oil. So in the first step, what they do is they do distillation of this crude oil. Then in the second step, all the heavy constituents, they are converted into gas, gasoline and diesel. And lastly, these impurities which are left, they treat it to get rid of them and get whatever is important. Now moving ahead to natural gas. So natural gas is a very important fossil fuel because it is easy to transport through pipes. So natural gas is stored under high pressure as compressed natural gas. So many of us have seen that many of the vehicles nowadays, they come with this logo of CNG, and when this logo is there, it depicts that vehicle fuel, the fuel of that vehicle is CNG. So CNG is known as compressed natural gas. So under high pressure, this natural gas which is there, it is stored and it is termed as compressed natural gas. Now CNG is used for power generation. It is now being used as a fuel for transport vehicles because it is less polluting and it is a cleaner fuel. So this thing we need to remember when we talk about CNG, that it is used in transport vehicles. Why? Because it is less polluting and therefore it is known as a cleaner fuel. Now the great advantage of CNG is that it can be used directly for burning in homes and factories where it can be supplied through pipes. Such a network of pipelines exists in Vadodara, some parts of Delhi and other places. So now what they are saying is that the great advantage of this CNG is that because it is easy to transport, It can be used as a fuel in burning. So therefore, what they are saying is that they can transport this fuel or the CNG gas to many of the home lines and factories and use it as a fuel. And this work is currently being done in places like Vadodara and some parts of Delhi and other places. Now, natural gas is also used as a starting material for the manufacture of a number of chemicals and fertilizers. India has vast reserves for natural gas. In our country, natural gas has been found in Tripura, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and Krishna Godavari Delta. So now what they are saying is that natural gas is also used as a starting material for manufacture of many chemicals and fertilizers. Now in India, because we have a vast land and vast reserves of natural gas, they say that we have found natural gas in Tripura, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and in the Krishna Godavari Delta. Now, some natural resources are limited. So you have studied in the beginning of the chapter that some natural resources are exhaustible, like fossil fuels, forests, minerals, etc. You know that coal and petroleum are fossil fuels. It required the dead organisms millions of years to get converted into these fuels. On the other hand, the known reserves of these will last only a few hundred years. Moreover, burning of these fuels is a major cause of air pollution. Their use is also linked to global warming. It is therefore necessary that we use these fuels only when absolutely necessary. This will result in better environment, smaller risk of global warming, and their availability for a longer period of time. So what we are saying is that in the beginning, when we spoke about exhaustible natural resources, the examples were fossil fuels, coal, petroleum. So these are limited resources. It depends on the human activity that how long they will last. So what they are saying is that if we go on using them, they might last only a few hundreds of years. So our upcoming generation won't be able to make use of it. So it is very important that we use these resources in limited, and we use it only when it is very necessary or when they have an excessive need. Otherwise, we should restrict ourselves and save this for sustainability. In India, the Petroleum Conservation Research Association advises people how to save petrol, diesel while driving. So here they have given some tips on how to save petrol and diesel while they are driving or riding. So drive at a constant and moderate speed as far as possible. Switch off the engine at traffic lights or at a place where you have to wait. Ensure correct tire pressure. Ensure regular maintenance of the vehicle. So these things we need to remember. So when we drive, so it is necessary to drive at a constant and moderate speed. Don't go very fast. That makes the fuel run more, and we are wasting a lot of fuel in that process. So then switch off the engine at traffic lights or at a place where you have to wait. So you need to, when we are waiting, especially at traffic signals, we see people just keep their vehicles on. That makes the fuel run even more. So it is advised to switch off the engines at the traffic signals or any places where we have to wait for a longer duration. Then ensure the correct tire pressure, and also ensure that our bikes or our cars are being having a regular maintenance time to time. So in this chapter, what we learned is coal and petroleum, natural gas are fossil fuels. Then fossil fuels were formed from the dead remains of living organisms millions of years ago. Fossil fuels are exhaustible resources. Coke, coal tar, and coal gas are the products of coal. Petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin wax, lubricating oil are obtained from refining petroleum. Coal and petroleum resources are limited. We should use them judiciously. And also we learn what are the rules that we need to follow to save these natural resources that are limited to us. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Bodhi Academy.